training, and even pharmaceutical interventions. In fact, a 2022 study published in Nutrients found that specific fermented dairy proteins can activate M2R, a key cellular switch that stimulates muscle protein synthesis, even in older adults who struggle to build or maintain muscle mass. This matters more than most people realize. After age 50, we lose about 1% of our muscle mass each year, a condition known as sarcopenia. But this isn't just about aesthetics or physical strength. Muscle is your metabolic engine. It controls insulin sensitivity, supports bone density, prevents falls, fuels your brain, and even produces anti-inflammatory molecules that impact everything from mood to memory. In other words, your muscles are the foundation of your longevity. And the older you get, the more essential it becomes to protect and rebuild that foundation. Now, here's the good news. Rebuilding muscle in your 60s, 70s, and beyond isn't just possible. It's powerfully doable if you understand how nutrition works with your biology. And that brings us to cheese. Now, I'm not talking about just any cheese. I'm going to walk you through 3 very specific types, each backed by research, that deliver unique combinations of leucine, bioavailable protein, vitamin K2, and probiotics that the hidden link between brain, gut, and muscle health nourish your muscles from the inside out. But this isn't just about food, it's about shifting how we think about aging. Instead of trying to fight aging with pills and gimmicks, we're going to use neuroscience, cellular biology, and behavioral nutrition to work with your physiology so your body can do what it was designed to do: heal, adapt, and thrive. Here sits what you still discover today: the real reason muscle loss accelerates after 60 and how cheese can interrupt that. Why certain cheeses outperform protein powders for post-meal muscle synthesis, the overlooked gut-muscle axis, and how cheese activates it through fermentation and microbial signaling. What the research shows about vitamin K2 muscle strength and mitochondrial efficiency. How timing and pairing these cheeses with other foods can dramatically improve absorption and results. And finally, a simple weekly protocol you can start today. No gym required. So if you're over 60 or want to help someone you love stay strong and independent, stick with me. This may be one of the most delicious longevity tools you've never heard about. If you're over 60, here's a critical truth. Your muscles don't respond to protein the way they used to. This phenomenon is known as anabolic resistance, and it's one of the key drivers of age-related muscle loss or sarcopenia. The good news: there's a very specific amino acid that can help overcome this resistance, and it's found in abundance in certain cheeses. That amino acid is leucine. Leucine is what scientists call a branch-chained amino acid, or BCAA. But what makes leucine unique is that it doesn't just build muscle, it signals your body to start the building process. Think of leucine as the ignition switch for muscle growth. Here's the science. Leucine directly activates a molecular pathway called M2, short for mammalian target of rapamine. This pathway is like a cellular command center. When it's activated, your body ramps up muscle protein synthesis, especially in response to food. But after age 60, that switch becomes harder to flip. Your muscles need a stronger leucine signal to respond. And this is where cheese, specifically aged hard cheeses like Parmesan, Grana Padano, and aged cheddar, becomes a powerful nutritional tool. According to a 2020 study in the Journal of Nutrition, these cheeses contain high concentrations of leucine per gram of protein, often rivaling or exceeding that of meat or whey protein without the cheese #1. Parmesan, the high leucine powerhouse digestive strain that some older adults experience with those foods, but there sets more. Unlike many protein powders or lean meats that digest quickly, cheese offers a slow and steady amino acid release thanks to its natural fat matrix. This creates a prolonged muscle-building window crucial for older adults who don't eat as frequently or who are dealing with slower digestion. Let's put this into a simple protocol you can use. Tool: the 3-hour rule. To overcome anabolic resistance, aim to consume at least 5 to 3 g of leucine in a single sitting, roughly what you'll find in 40 to 50 g of aged Parmesan or around 60 g of hard cheddar. This ensures MTR is activated with enough force to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Eating smaller amounts spread across the day, not as effective. The muscle switch only turns on when a threshold is hit. Here sits a relatable way to think about it. Imagine trying to turn on a light switch with a feather. Nothing happens, but use your hand with the right amount of pressure. The light comes on. Loosen is that pressure, and older muscles need more of it at once to respond. Now let's address a common concern. Isn't cheese high in fat or sodium? Yes, but context matters. Recent studies, including one in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, show that full-fat fermented dairy, when consumed in moderate portions and as part of a whole food diet, is not associated with increased cardiovascular risk. And in many cases, it's linked with better metabolic outcomes and muscle retention. So instead of fearing cheese, think of it as a targeted tool, especially when you choose aged varieties rich in leucine. And if you found this insight helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every week, we break down science like this into tools that elevate your strength, cognition, and long-term health, especially if you're over 60 and serious about living well. Now, we'll explore something almost no one talks about: how a special nutrient in cheese, vitamin K2, may hold the key to not just stronger bones, but faster muscle recovery, better mitochondrial health, and improved energy at the cellular level. When most people think of cheese, they think calcium, but the real unsung hero inside certain cheeses, especially semi-soft fermented ones like Gouda, Edam, and Brie, is a fats-soluble vitamin, called vitamin K2, also known as metaquinone. And here's just the surprising part. Vitamin K2 doesn't just help your bones, it also plays a vital role in muscle energy production, vascular health, and mitochondrial performance. In other words, it helps your muscles not just grow, but function with more strength, endurance, and stability. Let's unpack the science. K2's best-known role is activating proteins that direct calcium into the bones and teeth, and away from arteries and soft tissue. But recent studies have found that K2 also activates a mitochondrial enzyme called SIRT1, which enhances ATP production, the very fuel your muscle cells need to contract, repair, and regenerate. A 2021 study published in Frontiers in Physiology found that adults over 60 with higher K2 intake had significantly better mitochondrial efficiency, muscle strength, and walking speed compared to those with lower intake, even when exercise levels were matched. What steps happening here? Let's step into your cells for a moment. Muscles, especially as they age, require efficient mitochondrial function. These are the power plants of your cells. When mitochondria slow down, you feel it as fatigue, weakness, and slower recovery. K2, by supporting SIRT1 and electron transport chain function, helps your mitochondria stay youthful and your muscles energized. So, how does cheese fit into this? Among all foods, certain cheeses are the richest dietary source of vitamin K2, especially Gouda and Edam, both semi-soft, aged, and fermented with high K2 content. Brie, a soft ripened cheese with K2 concentrated in the rind, how mTOR activation builds new muscle mass and fat layer. Why these cheeses? Because K2 is produced by specific bacteria during fermentation, particularly strains like Lactobacillus and Propionibacterium, Froni, and traditional cheese, preserves these bacteria unlike most commercial ultra-processed dairy tool, the 4x weekly K2 dose protocol. Here sits a practical way to use this information. Include one small serving about 1:1, 5 ounces of K2 rich cheese at least 4 times a week, ideally with your meal, that includes fat like olive oil, avocado, or eggs. Since K2 is fat soluble, pairing it with dietary fat improves absorption by over 50%. Even better, combining K2 cheese with magnesium and vitamin in D-rich foods like leafy greens, eggs, or wild salmon creates a synergistic effect that enhances bone-muscle integration. And let's bring this into real life. Imagine you're having lunch. Instead of a low-fat sandwich or sugary snack, try this. A small side plate of sliced Edam, cherry tomatoes, and avocado with olive oil and sea salt. Not only is it delicious, you've just given your muscles a bioactive mitochondrial supporting meal. And if you're wondering, isn't K2 available in supplement form? Yes, but the form found in cheese, menaquinone 7 and menquinone 9, has been shown to have a longer half-life and better tissue distribution compared to synthetic versions. And one last point, K2 also protects against vascular stiffness, which is one of the hidden causes of fatigue and reduced blood flow to working muscles in older adults. So, by eating the right cheeses, you're not just feeding your muscles, you're also unclogging the delivery system. If this kind of science-backed real-life tool is resonating with you, consider subscribing. Each week we simplify cutting-edge research into usable habits that elevate your longevity, energy, and physical confidence, especially after 60. Now, we'll explore the fascinating connection between your gut and your muscles, and how fermented cheeses like Roquefort and Camembert enhance the gut-muscle axis, improving strength and resilience from the inside out. Here is something most people have never heard, yet it may be one of the most important discoveries in aging science. Your gut health directly influences your muscle strength. This connection is known as the gut-muscle axis, and it's becoming one of the most exciting frontiers in aging research. At the heart of this connection lies something simple yet powerful: the trillions of microbes in your gut, and how they talk to your muscles through hormones, metabolites, and immune signaling. Now, here sits the practical link. Fermented cheeses like Roquefort, Camembert, and blue cheeses are naturally rich in beneficial bacteria and postbiotic compounds that can help rebalance your gut microbiome, reduce low-grade inflammation, and even stimulate the muscle-building process. Let's unpack how this works. When you consume fermented cheese, you stir not just getting protein and fat. You stir introducing live microbial strains and fermentation byproducts like short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, especially, but these compounds do several remarkable things. They reduce chronic cheese H2. Camembert gut health meets muscle strength inflammation, which is one of the key drivers of muscle breakdown after 60. They enhance nutrient absorption, particularly amino acids, magnesium, and B vitamins, critical for muscle repair. They activate GLP-1 and other gut hormones, which improve insulin sensitivity and promote better blood flow to muscle tissue. In fact, a 2022 paper in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle reported that adults over 65 with higher levels of gut microbial diversity, especially from fermented foods, had greater muscle mass, grip strength, and lower inflammation markers independent of their exercise level. And the fermentation process in cheeses like Roquefort and Camembert enhances these benefits. These cheeses are rich in peniceum, Roquefort, E, and other molds that produce anti-inflammatory peptides and microbial metabolites that cross the gut barrier and influence muscle metabolism. Tool: the fermented first microbiome reboot. Here such a simple evidence-based protocol. Start 3 of your weekly lunches or dinners with a small serving of a fermented cheese, about 1 ounce like a slice of rock, 4 with arugula and walnuts, or camera with cucumbers and olive oil. Eating fermented foods first in your meal primes your gut to absorb nutrients and slows the glycemic impact of the rest of the meal. A win for both muscle and metabolic health. Why this matters. After 60, the older gut becomes more permeable, more inflamed, and often less diverse in microbial species. Fermented cheeses gently reintroduce beneficial strains and metabolites that help reverse this trajectory, leading to improved digestion, better protein utilization, and stronger neuromuscular function. And yes, taste matters too. These cheeses are deeply satisfying, which helps reduce cravings for ultra-processed snacks that disrupt gut health and accelerate sarcopenia through inflammatory mechanisms. Let vets address a common concern here. Are netted blue cheeses moldy and potentially risky? Not when they're properly made. The molds used in traditional fermented cheeses are non-pathogenic and well-studied with centuries of human use and modern research confirming their safety and functional benefits. So, think of these cheeses not just as food, but as a microbiome tool that helps shift your entire internal environment toward regeneration. Because remember, your gut isn't just digesting, it's directing. And what you feed it determines whether your muscles thrive or deteriorate. Now, we'll compare these natural whole food sources of protein to something many people rely on, protein powders, and reveal why cheese often comes out on top when it comes to real-world results in older adults. If you've been told to increase your protein after 60 to rebuild muscle, you're not wrong, but here's the deeper question. Is your body actually absorbing and using the protein you're consuming? Because when it comes to aging muscles, it's not just about quantity. It's about bioavailability, how easily your body can digest, absorb, and convert that protein into muscle tissue. And in that race, cheese often outperforms protein powders, especially for older adults. Let's start with what the research shows. A 2021 clinical trial published in the British Journal of Nutrition compared older adults consuming equal amounts of protein from whole foods versus isolated whey powders. The results, those consuming the role of butyrate and inflammation in sarcopenia, fermented dairy, including cheese, had significantly better nitrogen retention, higher muscle protein synthesis, and improved insulin response. Why? Because real food works with your physiology, not around it. Cheese contains a complete amino acid profile, just like powders, but it also delivers something powders often lack: the co-actors that enhance digestion, absorption, and utilization. These include natural dairy fats, which slow digestion just enough to allow for better amino acid uptake over time, lactoferrin and bioactive peptides, which support gut lining health and reduce inflammation, key for muscle regeneration, calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium, minerals that interact with muscle signaling pathways and enhance post-meal muscle repair. In contrast, many commercial protein powders, especially those marketed to older adults, are highly processed, stripped of enzymes, and contain artificial sweeteners or emulsifiers that disrupt the gut microbiome and may spike insulin unnecessarily. Here is an analogy. Imagine trying to build a house with just bricks but no mortar, scaffolding, or blueprints. That's what protein without coactors is like. Cheese, on the other hand, delivers the full construction kit, raw materials, and the tools needed to build muscle properly. Tool the evening anchor strategy. Many older adults experience nighttime muscle loss, what researchers call nocturnal catabolism. One way to counter this is to eat a slow-digesting, high bioavailability protein source in the evening. Enter cheese, a serving 1-to-1. 5 ounces of hard or semi-soft cheese before bed, ideally paired with a few nuts or some olives, provides a gradual release of amino acids through the night, helping your body rebuild rather than break down muscle during sleep. This approach has been validated by a study in Clinical Nutrition 2020, which showed that older adults who consumed a case enriched dairy food before bed experienced better overnight muscle retention and higher waking strength levels compared to those who fasted after dinner. And here's a psychological bonus. Cheese is satiating. It calms hunger hormones like ghrelin and increases leptin sensitivity, helping prevent late-night snacking on blood sugar spiking foods that can interfere with both sleep and muscle recovery. A practical example: try a small evening plate, sliced aged cheddar, a few walnuts, and a couple of cucumber rounds with sea salt. It's not just a satisfying snack, it's a precision dose of anti-sarcopenia nutrition timed to support overnight repair. Of course, this isn't about demonizing protein powders. For those with chewing difficulties or extremely low protein intake, a clean additive-free whey isolate can be helpful. But as a primary cheese #3, Gouda of vitamin K2 and mitochondrial boost strategy for rebuilding strength after 60, whole fermented cheeses offer a superior blend of digestibility, sustainability, and long-term muscle support. Up next, we'll put it all together and I'll walk you through the top 3 cheeses for muscle health, exactly when and how to eat them, and a simple weekly protocol you can begin right away. At this point, we've seen why cheese, when chosen correctly, isn't just a delicious comfort food. It's a functional muscle supporting tool, especially for those over 60. But not all cheeses are created equal. Some are high in sodium but low in active nutrients. Others are pasteurized, ultra-processed, and stripped of the very bacteria and vitamins that make cheese beneficial in the first place. So, let's cut through the noise. Based on nutrient density, amino acid composition, vitamin K2 content, fermentation profile, and real-world digestibility in older adults, here are the top 3 cheeses to rebuild muscle and fight sarcopenia. Backed by science and ready to eat. Oh no. Cage Parmesan Parmigiano Reggiano. This hard dry cheese is a leucine powerhouse, offering more than 3 g of leucine per 50 g serving. That's enough to activate the MTR pathway and flip your muscle building switch with just one moderate portion. Parmesan is also rich in calcium and phosphorus for neuromuscular coordination. Bioactive peptides form during its 12+ month fermentation, which help reduce inflammation and support gut function. It's naturally low in lactose, making it easier to digest, especially for seniors with mild lactose sensitivity. How to use it: grate over steamed broccoli with olive oil. Add to roasted vegetables or enjoy a few slices with a handful of walnuts before bed. It's compact, potent, and ideal for the evening anchor strategy we discussed. 2. Gouda, age 6 to 12 months. This semi-hard Dutch cheese is your vitamin K2 superstar. Studies show that aged Gouda contains some of the highest levels of menin 7, the form of K2 most associated with mitochondrial energy production and muscle function. Gouda also offers a balanced ratio of fat and protein for slow, sustained amino acid release. Natural bacterial strains.